What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL Live. Joined as always by my co-host Jonathan Holder, and today we're joined by another special guest, Sporting News Zone, Saivion Mixson. Saivion, how are you doing, sir?
Alive and kicking, boss man. How y'all feeling?
Oh, loving the summer heat. No, I'm actually kidding. I'm not. That summer heat can go ahead and move on because
Yep.
I'm about tired of sweating. It's a little warmer down where you are than it is up here, isn't it?
Oh no, I'm more north than you now. I've moved up
Oh,
here to Charlotte.
oh, son. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. So you're
sir.
not down in Florida no more then.
Not no more, and I'm happy
Oh,
for it because
yeah. Okay.
I
Yes.
picked the right time.
Son. I'm just kidding. I mean, it ain't too bad right now because we just had some rain roll through.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about 95 with a 98% humidity going on. It's just been like
Yeah,
nasty.
it was like what last Friday. Me and the wife, we she bought like a kiddie pool that was specifically said like it was specifically said to be a kiddie pool for adults.
Okay.
It was very much kiddie, but it was like it's like 5.5 foot wide circle.
Okay.
And so we put it out in the backyard, filled it up with water. Me and her just kind of sat out there. But when you looked at the temperature, it was like it's 93 degrees. But the real feel was 103.
Oh yeah.
And put on sunscreen and everything. But man, I still got burnt all to hell.
We got lit up. But no, it is definitely, summer shenanigans as far as we are in the dead period.
Oh,
As Nick puts up, he says, missed you guys the last 2 weeks. Hope everyone had a good 2 weeks and a fourth. Yeah, because like as we stated a little while back, until like without much to talk about, there really is no sense in taking up everybody's time, so to speak. We just be sitting here looking at each other. But it has been 2 weeks. Missed y'all. And Savion's been putting out some good articles. So I figured what better time to get him on and let him talk about some of them really good articles. You put out a good one today on like pass rushing. Like the what
Yes.
like leaning
Yeah.
on the young guys. What you got
So
for us there, bud?
yeah. So I asked the question. At least, or I wanted to ask the question basically: should we be worried about the pass rush room? Again, and
Isn't that
mostly
isn't that an
because
annual thing? Like,
I mean,
at this point,
even okay. I'll put it this way: as a Falcons fan, even if we had gotten every pass rusher that we went after, and we had all those guys on this team, I'd still be like, "So, what do we think about the pass rush? How's it gonna?"
how's it gonna work?
I mean, because apparently, any good pass rusher outside of John Abraham, you bring them here, and it's like they just disappear. They go into the ether.
right, and right now we don't even have that. Like
No,
right now
we
we
really
don't
don't.
we have Laurent. Like here's the projected starters from ESPN's Mike Clay. He does these insane projections for like all 32 teams. It's incredible how he does this. But here's the five guys that he has. He has Lorenzo Carter, AK,
Mm-hmm.
Braylon Trice, James Smith
Mhm.
Williams, and Bradley and I. He has him making it.
Yeah, because like right now, who's standing in Bradley and I's way?
Who's standing in his way? Yeah, I had to. I looked at it too. I was like, okay. I mean, Bradley and I like just got on the team, but when you look at it, I mean, that's our fifth guy. That's our
Right.
fifth rotational guy, and he just joined the team through a tryout. So he Clay projected us to be dead last when it comes to production, essentially when it comes to 2024. And when you look at it, can you blame him? I
Right.
No.
mean,
I mean, because like on the surface, it is a deal where your three sack leaders, two of them are no longer on the team,
mhm.
and that's um, Bud
Calais
Dupree
Campbell and Bud
and
Dupree.
Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree. Right now, neither one of those guys lit the world on fire, so they weren't necessarily. I can understand why you weren't necessarily clamoring to bring those guys back.
Mhm.
You know, because you take your swings at impact guys such as Daniil Hunter, such as trying to make moves up in the draft to secure one of the big three edge rushers. Last year, you tried to make a move for Montez Sweat. Like you tried to make moves for different, what you felt like were difference makers without selling the house, so to speak. So obviously, that tells you the team didn't view Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell as like foundational difference makers,
Right.
which I agree in that sense. So what they seem to be banking on is what Raheem was able to do last year out in LA
Right.
with Kobe Turner and Bryant Young,
Mm-hmm.
both 9 sacks apiece. So I guess they feel, and both of those guys were what, 3rd round picks, if I'm not mistaken.
Byron Young, I want to say, was actually, I think, a bit lower than that, but
Was he a bit lower?
I think he may have been a bit lower than that. Mm-hmm.
I'll look at it this. I take the perspective of, okay, it's one thing if we had let go our primary pass rushers and they were guys that were maybe either in their late 20s or early 30s, okay, like 30, 31, 32. If we'd let guys like that go, I'd be probably more upset about it.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I think Bud Dupree's maybe a little bit in that particular area, but I mean, we kind of know what you have in Bud Dupree. Like we know what that's going to do. Calais Campbell, love the guy. If he had come back, I'd be totally down for it.
Right.
Completely down. But okay, you bring those two guys back. You then have less snaps for some of the young guys, whether that's some of the draft picks, whether that's some undrafted free agent guys, whether that's guys that were already on your roster that just didn't get the snaps last year because those guys were in there ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like let's see what we actually have in some of these guys, whether that's the draft picks, whether that's the guys that were on the roster that didn't get the snaps last year, like an Arnold Ebiketie, didn't get the snaps last year, but still was basically
Still
tied with those guys,
Right.
as far as production goes, and probably was better in a win rate scenario than those other two guys were in general. So you give Ebiketie, you give him more snaps. Let's see what we get in that. Braylon Trice, I like that pick. I really like that pick. And I thought he was a 2nd round pick at worst coming out of college. So getting him where we got him, I was super high on that. So seeing him get more snaps on the field, seeing Brandon Dorless, Rukororo, seeing those guys get on the field more, Bradley, all these guys, I want to see them actually get on the field, get into the live fire, live bullets, and let's see what we have.
Well, hey,
and then we can make a
keep the bullets away
determination at
from
that point.
Can we look? We don't. I know that in years past we've done like Navy SEAL training and stuff like that, but let's just keep the bullets down. There's not actually ammo on the field anyway. But I agree in the sense of you invested draft capital wise, you invested heavily on the defensive line. So, outside of Michael Penix in the 1st round, you went all defense until towards the end with
Casey Washington and Jace McClellan.
And Jace McClellan. So like you pretty much said, all right, the 24 draft outside of, Michael Penix is going to be towards the defense. So it's a youth movement, on the defense. So then why would you go out and sign, like I said, unless you could get your hands on somebody like a Daniil Hunter, somebody who's a true game changer. Like why would you then put people in front of that heavy draft investment? I just think it might be a little unrealistic to expect much production out of rookies. Now, could be pleasantly surprised. Um, Nick says Grady to edge. No, I don't think we're gonna get Grady to edge. Yeah, I don't think we're
Let's
gonna
not,
get.
let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
No, right? Like we need
I
Grady.
like the creativity though. I like
I'm about to say
your,
we need Grady and we need David right there in the middle, wrecking havoc. Because again, if you're going to lean on what Raheem did out in L.A., like Kobe Turner was a nose tackle with 9 sacks.
Speaking of that, JR, you were totally correct. Both guys were 3rd round picks.
I thought they were thought they were thirds.
Yep,
But
77 and 89.
Right. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we get good production out of the young guys, especially with a coaching staff that doesn't seem to be like some coaching staffs are almost like allergic to using young guys. Like they don't want to put them out there.
Right.
But I don't think this staff is going to be that kind of a staff or that kind of like coaching unit.
I think this staff feels that they have the opportunity to do that this season because they feel comfortable enough in the offense and the way that the offense is projected to look to where they can kind of experiment more on the defensive side and it still be enough for us to get into the playoffs. Now, the question is, how far are you willing to take this experiment? Lord Jesus.
Oh, man.
I'm about to say, that sounds like you need to go check it.
Well, so while he's taking care of that, I see Bradley here. This I like this. Yeah, at least we are deep in the line now. Lots of bodies to keep us fresh through 4 quarters. So I like that. I think this is also we're fine at 3-4 defensive end with Grady, Zach, Contavious, Rook, and Brandon Dorless. Those guys. So I do think we're good there. And I think for the most part, when you look at nose tackle, you got Eddie Goldman, you got Onyemata, you got the 6th round pick out of Georgia, Zion Loge. So I mean, we got the guys that we have enough people to move in and out. We have enough guys to where we can get guys significant snaps, and like I said, see what we have in those guys. So
I'm not as honestly, I'm not as worried, especially when I sit down and watch the Rams games and see how they deploy their defensive line. They use a lot of 5-man fronts, and what that does is force the O-line to match, like play man up, play man to man. And so you're putting a lot of players in, you're putting almost your entire defensive line in one-on-one matchups. And if the O-line does, double team, then you have a free guy. So it makes for some more advantageous situations. And I think that's one of the ways that they were able to create some more favorable matchups for the younger guys. So I'm not too terribly worried about the defensive line as of yet. Now, it's still floating around, and it came back up again today talking about Matthew Judon up there in New England.
Yeah.
Like he's seeking a new contract. Doesn't really sound like the Patriots are willing to meet him with the amount of money that he wants. Now, I don't know if we're willing to do that either, but that's a productive name that could be out there that we may be able to trade some low assets for and then sign to a new deal kind of thing that I would love to get because he's been productive for the past few years now. I know he was hurt last year, but before he got hurt, he was very productive. Fred Butts, the heck? It was the tail end of the sound. That's what that was. What'd you do? Shoot a duck? Lord have mercy. Anyway.
Well, because when I tested it earlier, I hit pause at the
Yeah,
very
you didn't let
end.
it finish. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, he says all three guys we drafted can get after the QB, right? And I think that's the plan, right? I think that's the point with Rook and with Trice and with Dorless, and then you add in Loge in there as well as a clogging up the middle and getting pressure himself. I think the D line, if nothing else, I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Now you have, as we talked about earlier, as you brought up earlier, you have AK with a very high win rate with the snaps that he did have last year. So you're hoping that increased snaps for him will increase, sacks and production. So I think by the absence of Saivion still, I think, Marlon, you are correct. I think something did break. He said something broke. I think you're 100% right. I'm
probably.
Oh, here he comes again. Okay.
Hey, I heard. Yeah, something did break. We got to get a new blender now.
Oh, good. Oh no.
Yeah.
Is okay. Most importantly, is the baby okay?
She's fine.
Okay,
She's
good.
fine.
Okay,
Good.
good.
All right.
But yeah, well, I had to make sure that all the glasses picked up.
Yeah. No, yeah. You definitely got to do that because we don't need no glass and no baby's foot. Now this is like we are in the time of shenanigans, right? And we are in the time of, hey, we got nothing to talk about, so let's throw every ranking that we can think out there.
All of them.
And all of them, all the rankings. And so I wanted at least to get us to talk about a few of them. Now let's see, I even tried to do a little bit of prep work that y'all should be proud of.
Look at you.
Me too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't do squat, man. I'm on vacation this week.
That's okay. We love you.
Go
anyway.
ahead, John.
That's right. We love you anyway, Jonathan. All right. So first one we're going to talk about, I'm going to make this bigger so everybody can see it.
There you
Bam.
go.
All right. So I didn't read the whole article because I wasn't going to. But Aaron
Schatz.
Schatz.
That is the founder of the DVOA model.
Okay. All right. Cool. I bet you he had a fun time in school. Anyway. Aaron Schatz wrote a very long piece, as he puts it, for ESPN Plus, which I don't have access to, ranking all 32 teams by talent under 25. Mm-hmm. And this kind of leads into what we were talking about a second ago with the young movement on the defensive line. He has the Falcons ranked number 4 in his ranking, which I thought was interesting. Now, this has to be probably mainly driven by Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson,
right?
And then the defensive line guys we picked or we talked about. Now, over the weekend, I was on with One Time for the Fans, and we talked about this as well. I think AJ Terrell just misses out on this one. I think he is probably 25.
Yeah.
So, and obviously you're not going to count AJ Terrell. You're not going to count Grady, obviously, and Jesse Bates. But out of the under 25, Saivion, who really sticks out as like the cream of that crop or the star for you?
Honestly, Drake London, because
okay.
I believe that Drake is going to have one of those seasons where everybody just gets put on notice. I want, like, it took of course, when you first hear it, the first name that comes to mind is obviously Bijan, because Bijan is freaking amazing.
Right.
But I just feel like Drake London has still, like, even though he's starting to get his flowers because we have Kirk Cousins, everybody's like, oh my gosh, what is Drake London going to be looking
nuts?
at? Yeah, he's going to go nuts. I still think that we might be underrating Drake London and what he could possibly do this year. Like, who is it? Trayshawn put on Twitter today. Like, I put down what is it? I put down like 1,200 yards for him, and that feels low. And that's a crazy thing to say, because Drake hasn't even hit 1,000 yet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't think
So
so. I think he was 900 last
I
year.
think 900 and something with last year.
Right.
Like,
Let's see.
and you know, it really does feel low when you think about like trying to project out the season, because he can win in so many ways. He can win outside. He can win that one-on-one on the outside. He can find the soft spot in the zone and then create afterwards with the football. Like that's what he was great
Yep.
at. That's what he was great at USC, and he just hasn't had the chance to do that yet. And so,
Like, he hasn't had the level of accuracy that he's fixing to enjoy.
exactly.
Because you got to think with the combination of Mariota and Ritter, and then the hodgepodge that was last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's first year 866 yards, last year 905 yards, and a lot of times, you know, being the only real target out there. So
Yeah.
now you have, you know, steps in the influx of offensive mind, you know, offensive brain power. You know, that is now in the building. That definitely has a different focus, a different philosophy, which is, you know, more of a uh you know, pass first per se, but more of a
More modern.
more of a modern isolation, you know, trying to get players isolated, open, out in space by themselves.
Trying to get them in favorable matchups that would help them, you know, that would more align with their skill sets.
Right.
Yeah.
I was rewatching past couple of days, just trying to get my mind working back in, you know, things of football.
Right.
Rewatching some old Rams games, and the amount of times I heard a commentator say, caught that on the run. You know, as in like the wide receiver catching that ball, like moving in the right direction, you know.
And continuing to go. He does not have to
Right.
stop. He does not have to
Yep.
adjust. None of that. He
And
catches it and he is still in stride.
so, like, you think of London, Jonathan, like under 25, which one comes to mind to you first?
I mean, yeah, like you start asking me about the young talent. I will say the two guys that immediately come to mind. One is Drake London. The other is Robinson. Right. Those are those are the two guys, and I think specifically the Drake London is a guy that I would probably put over Bijan because simply because, you know, Drake London, in order to be successful, Drake London not only has to do Drake London things, but he also has to have a guy back behind the line that can do the quarterbacking things to get him the ball in the right spots, in the right timing, you know, and what have you, for him to be able to do those things. Whereas Bijan's the guy that can just, you know, the quarterback makes a difference in, so they're not loading the box up on you, but for all intents and purposes, for him to be successful, it's just a guy has to be able to turn around and hand the ball off most of the time, and the offensive line does its thing, right? But for Drake London, the time, like all the massive amounts of timing and getting the ball to him in the right spots, in the right ways, so that he can catch it on the run, so that or even stop him so that he doesn't run into something and get injured. You know, those
There's an
kind of
added
things.
component.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a dependency that isn't necessarily there for, you know, the running back per se. Like the running back is more dependent on the O line, which in the run scenario we have a good O line. Like to your point, or not to your point, but to add to your point, I guess you could say, Jonathan. The one thing that has me excited about Bijan is like the production that Kerwin Williams had for the Rams last year. Like as long as Zach Robinson is able to consistently adapt his scheme, which I think was one of Smith's like downfalls, is like his adaptations didn't work. Like he tried to adapt, but his adaptations didn't pan out.
Mhm.
And so, but Kerwin Williams last year for a team that was in 11 personnel 90% of the time, I think actually 92% of the time, he ran for what 1,144 yards and 12 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
So, like, and that should bode very well for Bijan Robinson. If we can get the passing game going, as you were alluding to earlier, Jonathan, then the box gets lighter for, Bijan, and he shouldn't have to work, nearly as hard. The guy that I'm kind of excited about, and Fred brings him up here, he says people are forgetting Pitts, talking about he's going to go off this year. I'm excited to see if Pitts can reclaim that unicorn status that he had, coming out of Florida. I'm very interested to see. Josh is over saying that one. He says, I think we see Pitts at outside wide receiver a ton this year.
I agree with that.
I wonder if it'd be like, I don't know about outside, but definitely I would imagine in the slot quite a bit. It was something I said to Jack and them on one time for the fans. I feel like, last year the Rams ran 11 personnel 92% of the time. That was the big thing. We ran it. They ran it the most. We ran it the least.
The least.
Right. Like we ran it, I think, like 11% of the time. Right.
Yeah.
And it was such a weird, like, disparity.
Mostly because we didn't have a third receiver, really.
Yeah. Right. But with Pitts, you saw Smith try to do 11 personnel things in a 12 personnel package.
Right.
Right. Okay. LA, they had Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Both of those guys can block like a tight end.
Right.
So you're doing condensed formation, 12 personnel things with 11 personnel guys, right?
Because you can. You're afforded that luxury when you have
Right.
a guy like Puka Nacua. Yeah.
Right. When you have Nacua and Kupp who have absolutely no problem throwing their nose in it and blocking like fullbacks. But I think you may see more of that 12 personnel still here in Atlanta. I don't think it's going to be 92% 11, because if that was the case, you wouldn't have signed Charlie Warner,
Right.
especially not to a $20-something million contract, or no, it was a $12 million contract.
Either way, that's a lot of money for a tight end too.
Either way, it's starter money for tight end too.
Because that's how much I think that's how much he's going to be playing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing with Kyle Pitts then? Right.
Moving him.
Right. That's what I'm trying. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. You're moving him around everywhere. And like you said, he can be moved in the slot. He can be moved in line on the other side of Warner, next to Warner. You can move him outside if you want to bring Darnell Mooney into the slot and try to use his speed to stretch vertically or something. Like, that's what Pitts affords you. He affords you that versatility, that ability to form a matchup nightmare, because there's not really many cornerbacks that can go out there and just.
And if you can get him, something John has brought up in the past, if you can routinely get him lined up on a linebacker, curtains.
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 Yeah.
But,
so I mean, the other thing that I'm actually excited for, because I think if he's going to be a thing a thing going further as a concern for this team, Kyle Pitts is really going to have to earn it this time, simply because we gave up a number 4 overall pick for him, but that was from a previous regime. That was a different coach,
right?
Different scheme, all that stuff.
Different scheme, all that stuff. So if he is going to get that second contract from us, then he's going to have to impress the current regime, because they don't have any attachments to him. Like he's a weapon. There's obviously talent there. So yes, they're going to look at that. They're going to see the talent and know that there's something there worth using.
Yeah,
Right.
but you
Now
gotta consistently put it out there.
right. So he's gonna have to work to make sure that he's thought of as a viable going concern for this team. And I agree. Like, I think you're probably going to see him. You'll see him outside some, but I think you're going to see pretty much outside. It's going to be Mooney in London most of the time. And I think if you do have two tight ends, you'll have Warner in line, and you may have Drake or Pitts in line, but he may then motion out to the slot.
Yeah.
And then if he gets out to the slot, maybe then he swaps with Drake, and Drake goes into the slot to try to get some kind of matchup or whatever, whatever the case may be. But I think a lot of his time will be spent in line and also in the slot, and he'll kind of pop to the outside from time to time. But I don't think he'll be out there a lot. I think he'll be out at the slot a lot. And in line will be like slot will be number one, in line will be number two, and I think outside would be number three as far as like percentage of the
usage.
Usage. So
before we get too far past this, Willie Doc, we appreciate you greatly.
Thank you, Willie.
He says, blessings, Saivion and P4P. He says, glad to see you all back. We'll catch on the replay. Saivion, your live reaction to Penix picks was pure gold. Yes. Saivion just left. He just got up and left.
You were done for the rest of the night. You were just like
just done.
I was numb, yo. I was numb. And you know what, Jonathan? I have to give you an apology because I was completely against it. I was completely against the thought process. I was completely against everything. I'm not saying I am 100% on board. I'm just saying I get it now. So, Jonathan, I wanted to formally apologize to you.
Nah, man. Look, at the end of the day, it either works or it doesn't. But like I said, I understand.
You could see. You saw it from the beginning. I
understood. I understood the thought process. Whether it works or not, whether it helps us going into the future, like the hope is. Who knows? But I see the thought process behind it. So
I still say 100, especially after seeing a lot of these draft day clips coming out. They wanted to be at that podium with Penix and a pass rusher.
With Penix.
They wanted to be
with Penix.
They wanted to be at that podium with Penix and with somebody like Jared Verse or Latu or something like that.
And see, that makes me wonder even more about the not getting as much capital as possible when it comes to the Chicago Bears pick.
What I'm
saying?
We talked about again. There's
I would want as much ammo as possible if you're trying to get back in. If you want that extra, you get that extra fourth. It's like, all right, now I have another fourth that I can deal with. Either I can keep it, or I can keep it as insurance just in case.
What I think what it really came down to, and however you view it, is on you as a fan. It was they were not going to risk losing Penix. Penix meant for them. Penix was what they were coming out of the first round with, regardless,
obviously.
And so, with that being said, you weren't going to risk Chicago then doing something like getting
crazy,
a Godfather offer from the Raiders or something.
New Orleans, actually.
Right.
I think they were one team that was looking up.
Right. So I get the thought process, but from a fan's perspective, you're like, well, you just walked away from a free fourth. What are you doing? There's a lot of stuff that we're not privy to.
There's a guy that I've heard, and I've said it on here before, so you guys may have already heard this, but if you hear coaches and other executives talk, is if you're on the clock and there is a guy there that you feel is a franchise quarterback, you don't think about it, you don't hesitate, you go get him.
Yeah, do what you do.
And that's where, and I think that's what happened. They got to the 8th pick. Their guy was there. They didn't want to lose control of the situation. The guy they thought was a franchise quarterback for them and their future plans was there, and they're like, we're going to go get him. Period. End of discussion.
So
And you can't fault that.
yeah, to pivot off of that topic to kind of get back to the under 25 talk.
Mm-hmm.
You have ESPN, Mr. Schatz, ranking us like 4th overall,
Yep.
and then you have the other side of the coin. The other dichotomy, or is you have the 33rd team puts out their top 25 players
That was
under
crazy.
25, and not a single Falcon on there. Which, again, these are two different companies. This is by somebody, former NFL GM Jeff Diamond.
Former Vikings GM Jeff
maybe
Diamond.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was some Vikings like slander or what have you. But the problem that I have with this list, really, if you really want to like break it down, it's for me, it's number 24. Like
Same for me.
I don't know honestly how you put Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson.
I'll tell you why. I can tell you exactly why.
You probably have the same thought I do. Go ahead.
The Lions made the playoffs and made it to the and had a good playoff run.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
But to me, that's a team accomplishment.
Agreed. But that's the reason why Jesse Tuggle's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. That's the reason why there's going to be a lot of Falcons throughout history that probably deserve to be in the Hall of Fame that are not going to be in the Hall of Fame because they played on crappy ass teams.
And if we're being honest, if Matt Ryan does make it, which I really hope that I'm almost positive that he should, that's going to be the reason why he does make it, because of the sustained success and the sustained playoff success that he has had. So yeah, I agree with that. Now with Jahmyr Gibbs, I thought that was funny because it's like, number one, that's what is that? The 6th lion on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th lion.
Yeah, 5th lion on here. Right.
That's the 5th lion you have on here. I get it, man. They're set up well. I understand. I understand.
Well, there's now, I hate to say it like this, now they're really set up to take a step back. It's like,
they can't. They took a huge one forward. So
right. And so it'll be interesting as far as let's see, I want to full on compare Gibbs' season. Here we go. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Rush yards. Bijan had.
Still hear you guys.
Yeah, you're fine. Go ahead. Do what you got to do. So Bijan had 976. Gibbs had 945.
Mm-hmm.
Not much of a difference there. Bijan had a few more attempts at 214 to Jahmyr's 182. Let's see. Receiving yards. Here's one of the bigger discrepancies in my opinion, because this is what Jahmyr is like. That's his calling card in a sense, is what he can do out of the backfield. So receptions, Bijan had 58, Jahmyr had 52. So Bijan had 6 more receptions?
Yeah.
So 6 more receptions, and Bijan had 487 yards to Jahmyr's 316.
Yeah.
Now, and Bijan had 4 receiving touchdowns to Jahmyr's 1 receiving touchdown.
Yeah.
And rushing touchdown. Now, I have to say, I guess because he had more opportunities to do so, Jahmyr had 10 rushing touchdowns where Bijan only had 4 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
But still, to me, Bijan is a clear-cut better, not better, but it just had a better regular season.
Yes.
Or more favorable.
But again, you take 2 similar-ish players,
right,
in the NFL, and you get it, and you're going to sit here and put together a list like this,
mm-hmm.
and one's on a bad team, one's on a good team. the one that's on a good team is always
Gonna
going
get the
to
head.
get,
Good point.
going to get that nod over the guy that's on the bad team, and that's
Yep.
just like if we had gone to the playoffs, and the Lions had not, then if everything else remained the same, and you probably wouldn't have Sam Laporta up here, you probably wouldn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now you probably still would have had Aiden Hutchinson, and you probably still would have had Penix Sewell because those two are really, really good players.
I think you still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm a huge component of Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And that's a possibility. But again, if we're talking about he's on a bad team, does he have the yards? Does he have all the things that he needs to get on this list? We don't know.
Yeah.
But I think Aiden Hutchinson and Penix Sewell, those two guys can be looked at more of as a they can like put the microscope on just them and be like they're good no matter what. Okay,
Right.
So I think they could have still made this list regardless of how the overall team did.
Now,
if the Falcons get on there, then yeah, Bijan's probably on there. Maybe Drake London's on there. That's really the only, and maybe Pitts if we're in the playoffs because he probably had a better season. Maybe he's on there instead of Sam Laporta. Maybe.
So my next question would be, as far as this goes, does Jordan Love really, like, after one good season?
Listen, everybody, because here's the thing. The experiment didn't go as it was supposed to. And the thing is, even after the experiment didn't go as it was supposed to, and Jordan Love even struggled out of the gate, the back half of 2023 was good enough to where it's like, all right, the Packers did it again. So because of that, because he
gets that, and then
he gets that bump. He gets that Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre bump that the Packers now get because it's like,
are we really sold on Trevor Lawrence? I know he just got a huge payday, but
that's why he's at 25. I think that's why he's at 25. It was just like, listen, I still got to talk about him.
I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you don't let him walk away because I mean he's definitely not a bust, but he's still got
$55 million.
Yeah, he's still got a long way to go, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, in my eyes, that contract is partly on some of the success he's had so far, which he's had some really good, some really high, high highs, but he's had some low lows. But it's also
like
because you believe that he is the guy going forward. So you pay him as such.
All I know is that, again, they were expecting a lot of things out of the Jags this season, and the Jags were the Jags.
So I'll tell it to you like this. Because I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. Duval, that's my hometown.
It's a Duval.
Like, they have not had a quarterback to be excited about. Because Blake Bortles is Blake Bortles. That's fine. He was okay. They haven't had a quarterback to really be excited about since David Garrard.
Gannon.
Woo! Not Brunell.
Brunell.
Yeah, not Gannon.
Yeah, Brunell.
Yeah, Gannon was a Raider. Since Brunell and Raptor Brunell was Garrard. After Garrard, I mean, they've had, what is it? Freaking, who's dude? Oh my gosh, what's the dude that's in Tampa? That's the backup. Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They had Blaine Gabbert. Yeah.
Yeah, they went from Gabbert to Bortles, and Bortles was fine, but he wasn't the reason why 2017 was as.
No, that was Saxonville.
That was
that
Saxonville.
Defense. Yeah.
So they were looking for anything to kind of like hold on to. They got a new stadium coming up. It's like, yo, look, this is the future. That's what this move was. This is the future. We're going to be building around the future.
Yeah, that's definitely it was, it's just like paying, look, the Giants paid Daniel Jones $45 million. So, it's either you pay it or you go back in the well. And if you don't feel too confident about going back in the well, then you pay the guy that you have, and you hope that he can continue to grow and make progress. I would have to agree right now. I tend to agree with Fred. I think Trevor is a little overrated. I need to see some more consistency out of him.
Right.
But they got time in a sense. All right, so moving on to the next preposterous rankings. This isn't even a preposterous ranking, really.
I was gonna say. So you're saying that they don't rank the Falcons highly on this one? I got you.
No. Well, this one's different. This one is PFF. They embarked on a task that I thought was hilarious. And that was building the perfect team for each conference using, their metrics or what have you, right? So this is the NFC South per unit, okay? Let's see. Let's get to bam. Okay. So for PFF, building the perfect NFC South team would consist of, we have Saivion is frozen over there. I'll unmute him. Chris at PFF, enough said.
Yep.
Well, this one actually kind of a little favorable as far as the Falcons are concerned. They gave a nod to us for the quarterback unit. Saivion, you were like frozen over there. I don't know if
I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm good.
Yeah, well
That's
anyway,
crazy.
we can still
Either
see
way.
your pretty face. It's all good.
That's all that matters, right, guys?
That's right. So they give us the nod for quarterback play with Kirk Cousins, which I think is fair. I think that's a fair assessment.
I think without having seen him play a snap in the NFC South, but knowing what he is, right now, the nod has to go to Atlanta for the best quarterback. Like,
agreed.
He should be looked at as the best quarterback in the NFC South.
Yeah, because you've seen the consistency of his career thus far, right? So there's no reason to think that even okay, let me put it to you this way. If you're going to think Rodgers comes back without any ill effects, there's no reason to think that for the first time that Kirk actually has a injury that puts him out, that he doesn't come back better or as well, as he has been. So definitely better than Bryce Young, definitely better than Derek Carr, definitely better than Baker Mayfield. So
Yes.
not a hard one there. They gave us the nod at running back unit, which again, Bijan and Tyler both have eclipsed from scrimmage over 1,000 yards in rookie seasons. So for as much crap as you might want to give Arthur Smith, he at least built a good backfield.
Sure did.
Right. So I was shocked the other day when I found out Alvin Kamara has never rushed for over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, hasn't been consistent enough over there.
Huh. No, if he gets the ball too often, like actually running the football, he tends to get injured.
Right.
So they don't let him do that as much, and then he does a lot more damage in the passing game than he does anywhere else.
Right. And so because Millie's over here saying, at running back, it's a toss up between Kamara and Bijan. I actually think I give it to Bijan because at least right now he has shown that he can handle the run between tackles type load.
Well,
it's only been one season, so
and he's just younger as of right now. Yeah.
Exactly. Now receiving core is interesting because they give it to Tampa.
I would. You got Mike.
You got Mike Evans and you got Godwin.
Yep.
And who else do they have down there? Am I missing?
Well, I know they have Russell.
Trey Palmer.
Trey Palmer. No, they don't have Russell Gage anymore.
Oh, they don't.
Russell Gage?
Trey Palmer.
Trey Palmer. Okay. So I don't know. I would still put. I guess because we haven't had a consistent quarterback play, it's really hard to say what do you have outside of Drake. Drake
and ours is like it's new. Everybody, you don't know how they're gonna mesh yet. You don't know how
the chemistry
Mooney
between
Mooney
and Rondale Moore and
Ray McLeod. You don't know how they're gonna all come together. The names are nice. They all seem like they're fit.
Hey, and some of the hair's nice. I'll say that Ray McLeod was.
I mean,
Like-
if we're going on
I'm not
hair,
giving-
then
I'm-
dude, last
yeah.
year, what was his name? What was
Mac Hollins.
Mac Hollins. That's what I'm saying.
Collins should be the best
Mac
wide
Hollins.
receiver in the NFL.
Mac Hollins was an absolute what was the epitome of a football player. That man ate with his hands, came in there barefoot, and didn't catch a ball. He was a hell of a blocker though.
Couldn't catch a cold.
Hell of a blocker though. I tell you what, that man was a special team savant.
Yes. So moving on down there, they give the Falcons the nod on the O-line, which makes sense. We had one of the better O-lines in the NFL. Now I'm going to be interested to see, now that we don't have a mobile quarterback, like you have an old man statue back there, basically. Like, does the O-line's effectiveness take a step back?
So I think that Kirk still does a lot of bootleg stuff, so he's still going to be on the move, technically. But yeah, no, that's
just
a
something
good
I've
point.
been. It's just something I've been thinking about as far as like. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, I think that one of the other things that you ran into a problem with some of the guys we've had back there the last couple of years is, while they're mobile quarterbacks in the sense of they can get out and run when they're on the edges, they can escape the pocket and things like that. I don't think any of them, Mariota included. Mariota was probably the best of the three when it came to this, but I don't think any of them were especially good, like pocket QBs, in the sense that they moved around the pocket well.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So like a guy like Drew Brees was like a master at this, where he was not a mobile quarterback. He was not a guy that was going to beat you with his feet. He could occasionally get out there and run, but that was not his thing. What he was a master, and I hate him with the passion of 1,000 suns, but this guy in the pocket could like literally look like he's about to go down for a sack, shrug his shoulder, take a step this way, and then next thing you know, he's free and clear in the pocket, and he can throw the football and whatever. So he navigated the pocket well. Matt Ryan was a good, as his career got on, he became a better pocket quarterback as far as maneuvering inside the pocket and getting himself into positions to be able to deliver the ball. So I think that Kirk Cousins, while he's not Ritter or Mariota.
Yeah, he's not mobile by any stretch of the imagination.
I think he's going to be a guy that can move within the pocket. He knows when it's a good time to step up. He can feel the pressure better. Is going to be able to move and maneuver within the pocket to be able to deliver the ball as necessary. So I think, yes, he's a more static quarterback than the guys we've had back there the last couple of years. But I think the offensive line, the numbers for the offensive line will probably, if not improve, at minimum, they'll stay the same that they've been over the past few years.
And also, like Saivion, you in a sense, like you have a different perspective because you covered the early part of the Vikings last year for the outlet that you were working for. I'm losing who it was, but
Vikings Wire.
That's it, Vikings Wire. So you covered in. Do you think Kirk's ability to get the ball out quick maybe something that also aids the O-line?
Yes, 100%. Like, and honestly, the pocket navigation that Jonathan was talking about, that's kind of what surprised me the most with Kirk Cousins, because I don't remember him being that much of a pocket navigator for the years before, but he was very much so last year. He navigated the pocket. He was able to find the holes, find a window to throw out of. But yeah, he does get the ball out quick. What I like about Kirk is Kirk runs the offense, and you can tell how the offense is supposed to look based on where he throws the football. Right. It's like okay, it's like a covered. Let me see. It's like a cover 4. All right, you see this route here, you see this route here, and you can see Kirk Cousins like going through his progressions and saying no, yes, and it's consistent. It's a consistent thing, and I think that's one of the things to be most excited about is the fact that you have this is gonna sound really bad. You have a grown up at quarterback now.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like
but
you
no, you're
have,
not wrong though. You're not.
I know, but I don't want to sound like I'm hating, but that's what
Right.
it is. Like you have a grown up at quarterback now, and you don't
Now-
have to worry.
Tony Rice, he says, I bet you
That's
Mac
wrong.
Hollins won't walk around barefooted in Buffalo.
That man, knowing Mac Hollins, he was like, "Is that a challenge?
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted."
I saw that and I was like, that's too good. I can't not. Okay, King says he thinks Gage is still a free agent. He's not even with the
Man,
49ers no more.
Yeah, I thought he was with the 49ers. That's crazy.
So that's crazy. Now, all right, so keep going here with this building the perfect NFC South team. No surprise here. Defensive line. It's
you got
Todd
Vita
Bowles.
Vea.
I'm about to say it's Todd Bowles, it's Vita Vea, it's Joe Tryon over there. It's like that defensive line for the Bucks is nasty. Chris. Hey, see if you can give me an autograph, Chris.
Yes.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what.
Now I don't know. I think this has a chance to not be correct. They're giving the linebacker core of the Saints. Now I get it. Demario
Davis,
Pete Warner, and I don't know who else they got. I know they got Pete Warner and Demario Davis. But I was watching today and thinking to myself, I think there's a real good chance that Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson, and Nate Landman absolutely eat with Raheem Morris.
Very much an underrated linebacking core.
I think, with the way that they send those guys on, the creepers type blitzes and simulated pressures and stuff, what's his name? Ernest
Jones.
Ernest Jones. That's it. Ernest Jones for LA is a do-it-all linebacker who is thriving in that scheme. And I definitely can see Caden Ellis and Troy Anderson doing the same thing myself.
Yeah.
So I think if we were to do the same thing next year, there's a good chance that this could be the Falcons as well. Now, the last one would be in the secondary, giving that to the Saints. Are we talking about the full secondary? We're just talking about corners.
I think it has to. I think it's the full secondary. And if you look at it, I didn't realize how stacked the secondaries were in the NFC South. We're looking pretty good, guys. We did.
You got J.C. Horn up in Carolina.
J.C. Horn and Xavier Woods up in Carolina.
You got Antonio Winfield.
You got you got Winfield and is Carlton Davis still here?
I think so. I think they re-signed him.
Oh, yeah, I think he is.
Davis. Yeah, Carlton Davis. You go to New Orleans, and pretty much all of them can cover.
Right.
All of their corners can cover one-on-one. They're tasked to pretty much every play.
Right. So, but here's the deal. What I do find interesting is there's not a single unit that they gave a nod to the Carolina Panthers. I guess they were just that bad last year. Because
you can't though.
Well, because they're using PFF's position rankings, right?
Right.
So if it's going off of last year, then it was just bad. It was just bad. But I did feel a little bad for our siblings up 85 there. Let's see. I think.
The only thing that actually did anything of any real note last year was on the defensive side of the ball, and even then, it wasn't all that great. So, it is what it is. They've got a lot of work to do ahead of them. Hopefully, they don't do it.
Hopefully they fumble
within the next 5-10 years.
Right.
That's just a me thing.
Chris says if it's appropriate, he'll try to get an autograph from Dorless instead. I'll make you a deal, Chris. You get me something autographed by Dorless, and I'll send you a pound for pound hat.
Let's go.
We'll make an exchange. How about that?
I'm a witness, Chris. I saw it. I heard it.
Now, Tev is saying Carlton Davis is not with the Buccaneers anymore. So that would be something to consider there. But yes, with Altron Taylor, Tyrann Mathieu, who's some of the other corners on?
He's a Lion now. That's crazy.
Paulson
Adebo.
Adebo, that was the name I was looking for. Like the Saints have a good secondary.
They got a good secondary.
Even with Grabamore. I mean,
their secondary, I would say right now when it comes to their defense, their secondary is probably their strength, and that's
absolutely
that's what allowed they can lock down some wide receivers and give their defensive line. They are the when people talk about building their defense from the back to the front, that that's they are like kind of the prototypical version of that, where their cornerbacks and secondary is good enough that they can take guys that if they had worse secondary players, they'd probably get torched way more often just because their guys are not winning as quickly. They're not getting to the quarterback as quickly. They need that extra second and a half of coverage to get to those guys.
I mean, look, Cameron Jordan ain't getting no younger, okay?
No.
So, like, he needs a little bit more time so they can open up, and then so that's my shot at Cameron Jordan. I would never say that to him to his face, because that man would body slam me without much effort. But that was all like the interesting summertime rankings. We are about 2 weeks out from camp starting. It starts the 24th of July. So we still got a little bit of time before training camp officially opens up for us Falcons. If any of y'all are going to the Benz for the August 2nd open Benz practice, me and Jonathan will be there. I'll be there for sure. I bought Jonathan a ticket. We'll see if he can make it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm giving you a hard time, John.
God dang.
I know. I got to pick at somebody. But yeah, we'll be there. So if you see us, make sure you say hi. But going into training camp, what battle are you most looking forward to? What position battle, Saivion? I'll start with you while we got you. What position battle going into camp are you most intrigued by?
I mean, it's got to be cornerback too, right?
Right.
I mean, we got to see who's going to be on the other side of AJ. And going back to the under 25 rankings, one of the guys that helped us out a little bit, Clark Phillips III, man. I mean, he's obviously the front runner. But you have guys coming in like Kevin King, Antonio Hamilton. These longer guys, these guys that more fit the prototype of what he's looking for at an outside corner. So you kind of see a place where Clark Phillips can take that job because he's just so good,
Right.
But at the same time, is that size a hindrance? I'm
about to say that's the one thing that like all technique and everything in the world can't make up for the fact that you're 5'8".
Exactly. And it's I
got all the passion in the world, and nothing's gonna get over the fact that I'm overweight and can't run. Okay. I mean, I might be able to fix the overweight part, but I ain't never been able to run.
I can't run.
Okay. I can't run. And I have a real high self-preservation gene that won't let me, tackle folks. You know what I'm saying? I want to. The want to's there, but it don't happen. I go to, and it just.
Ain't nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you can do about that.
You telling me you're not willing to run into a brick wall every 90 seconds or so?
You're not ready to get into 100 car crashes, man.
Obviously, unfortunately, no. The repeated car crashes for 3 hours just doesn't sound like anything that I want to partake in. So sometimes the physical attributes you just can't overcome, and that's the part that I worry about with Clark Phillips. Like, you gonna put Clark? Are you just gonna make AJ like shadow Mike Evans? Because you
Because here's
can't
my
put
thing.
Clark Phillips on him.
Here's my thing. We run a lot of cover 3, man. Raheem Morris wants to run a lot of cover 3. That's your last guy. That's it. It's just Clark.
Yeah.
So
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? Like if
Look,
that's what you want,
even the baby thinks it's funny.
She
Okay.
knows,
Well,
man.
She knows.
It's
Even
just
she
Clark
knows.
back there.
Right. Even she's
I,
like,
I think there's a good chance that whoever is QB or not QB, CB2
mhm.
on a game-to-game basis will come down to matchups.
So you think they may have a revolving door of like him and Mike Hughes?
Him, Mike Hughes, King, whatever, simply because I think if you get a guy like, King is a guy who's got the length, but maybe doesn't have the stick to it, the ability to stick with some of like the smaller, shiftier guys
Right.
that might play on the outside. So if you run into those kind of guys, then that's where Clark Phillips III comes in, and he is able to stick with them. He's not being completely overmatched just from a physical standpoint. And I think Clark Phillips, for the most part, can cover most guys in the NFL. There's going to be some guys that they maybe just you put him out there, he's just going to get beat by jump balls all day long. There's not really a whole lot. He'll probably be in the right position. He'll probably be exactly where he's supposed to be and playing it perfectly. He just is short. Okay. But you get him against some of the smaller guys out there, then I think that negates the one thing that you just kind of can't learn, which is be taller.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, so I think at least this year, unless he proves that he can go out there against the Mike Evans of the world and legitimately cover them even in jump ball situations, and make up for his shortness with either craftiness with punching out balls or whatever the case may be,
or whatever he needs to do.
Whatever he needs to
Causing
do.
turnovers, yeah.
Whatever he needs to do in that situation. Was like Fred Butts here. He's like, Brent Grimes was small but great. Let me put that up here.
Because Brent had the physical tools to be able to get over the fact that he was small.
Yeah, but I was saying
that dude could jump out the gym.
I was about to say he could jump out the stadium. He wasn't the same after he tore his Achilles or whatever he. I know he tore something.
He tore something.
But so yeah, but Clark Phillips is an interesting one. Tony has a good question here. He says, question to the panel. He says, who wins the battle? And I love the way Tony, he gets very, very detailed here. Who wins the battle for backup left 3-4 DN, free agent signee James Smith-Williams or Taquan Graham? Because one of them is going to be released. Like, he's asking who's going to win because the other one's gone. Okay. All I know is in a situation like this, I look at it like, and this may sound cold-blooded, but they went out and brought in James Smith-Williams and inherited Taquan Graham. So if it's close, I could see Graham moving on. Like if you're saying that it's one of those guys and the other one's going to be released, I'm going to put it on James Smith-Williams. Now, that's just where I'm at on it.
No, that's going to hurt too because Taquan Graham still has good football ahead of him.
He does. And I could see a scenario where they keep him just because of the not lack of depth, but the no like surefire studs outside of Grady and Onyemata on the D line. So I could see where they would keep them both, but we'll see how that comes out. Jonathan, you got anything you want to add to that one?
I think if Taquan Graham can show us what he showed us a couple years ago before he got injured, if he can show that, then I think he makes it. But I don't know. I have no idea about James Smith-Williams. Never heard the guy's name before we picked him up. I don't know what he looks like in a 3-4 defensive end type spot.
He'd be fine. He'd be
Yeah,
fine.
like
he's no world beater, but he'd be
no, he's a good rotational piece. He's a good depth piece. He's nothing that's gonna light the world on fire. But right now, neither is Taquan Graham. So
right. So but I agree with you, JR, that if they're like similarly matched, then I think, like obviously they see whatever they see in Smith Williams,
right,
and they liked it enough to bring him in. Taquan was just there, so
yeah, they inherited Taquan. So
if they like them both kind of about the same, probably Taquan's probably going to move on.
Right. Let's see. Millie Mills says Ray McLeod versus Rondell Moore is a matchup I'm looking for.
So they're both going to make it, but I think what Millie Mills is saying, like, who's going to get more run? I'm guessing.
Maybe, yeah. Like which one separates themselves?
I think Rondale has the upper hand on that. As far if we're talking about playing offense, right?
Right.
We're not talking about special teams. We're not doing anything like that. We're just talking offense. I think Rondale Moore is the guy. Is your gadget guy?
Yeah,
that's what I think.
No, I agree with that.
Because somebody, like, if we're looking for like a 1-to-1 type situation, somebody has to fill that 2-2 at will role.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, and it's going to be one of those two guys because they fit that
to
mold.
a T. Both of them.
Right. So one of those guys is going to fit it, and it just ends up being whoever I guess gets in sync more.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Jack Spade earlier, what's going on?
Jack, what up, man?
He says, yo, what's good? Just trying to talk a little Falcons. Just trying to pass the time, beat the heat.
Trying to pass the time.
That's right. Tev Sports Gaming says, do you guys think Eddie Goldman will finally play or skip town on us again?
No idea.
Hold on, I got a quarter around here somewhere. Hold on. I got it. Let's see. Heads he stays. Tails he skips town. Let's see.
Tails, we see his tail. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
We see his tail on the way out.
Hey, it's heads he stays.
Nice.
So.
So the official
answer, the nose tackle.
The official pound for pound answer is he will play for us this year.
There it is. Done. He is in the mold. But it
was so Tony thinks that Rondale will be the number 3 receiver and Ray will return kicks and maybe punts. Avery Williams is still coming back. We'll see if Ray can beat him out.
With this,
or if Avery can win his spot back,
right.
Whatever.
Again, this is another instance where two guys fit the same area, and one was brought in by the new coaching staff, one is inherited. A lot of times in that situation, the one that's brought in by the new coaching staff is the one that wins out. So Chris says he is team Eddie Goldman. I don't know. There may be a deal where, like, I ain't gonna spend the money, but I might consider getting an Eddie Goldman jersey if he makes it through the whole season. I may just have to put it on the wall over here. So let's see. Tony says, so this means the end of the line for Avery Williams with us drafting running back Jason McMillan. Who knows? Like, if he can't carve
necessarily.
I was gonna say, if he can't carve out a role as a returner, you also got to think he does have cornerback experience.
Right.
So that might be another way for him. They always say the more you can do, the better chance you have of sticking. So I say his path to the team is still through special teams. It may not be returner. It could be gunner, So we'll have to see on that. Millie wants to know, all right, college football 25 drop next week. Who y'all rocking with? If I was going to get it, which I probably ain't because I don't think it's out on PC. Maybe it is, but I would probably pick some obscure team like I'd go like Kennesaw State University or something like that because I just think that would be funny. So maybe what is it, West Georgia? If West Georgia's in there,
Or like Georgia Southern, Georgia
yeah,
State,
right,
something like
right.
that.
What about you, Savion? You
So
going with
my
the
team,
Seminoles?
so my team, of course, one of them has to be the Seminoles. One of them has to be FSU. But the other one that I used to do was UCF, but now UCF has gotten too big. I can't. It's not obscure anymore. So
Yeah, no, you're gonna have to go with like FAU or something.
yeah, I gotta go down to like FAU, FIU now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. Florida. Then you got to go with the Owls or what is FIU? What are they? They are like
The FIU is the Panthers.
I
Florida
was gonna
International
say there's some
Panthers.
kind of cat, aren't they?
Some kind of cat.
Oh snap! Oh yeah, okay. Um,
If I'm picking a player or picking a team to do a dynasty with, it's not obscure, but they haven't had like a whole lot of success fairly recently, and that is Georgia Tech. That's my
Yeah.
team, has been
I
since
like
I was
that.
a little kid. So to bring them back to powerhouse status would be awesome.
there you go. There you go.
I will say
Yeah.
I will never forgive you guys for how you use Calvin Johnson.
What?
Putting him in that option offense was criminal.
Well, I mean, he was recruited prior to that coach being hired. So, but I mean, he still did well enough in that role and got drafted really high anyway. So,
Well, because that man showed up and like ran a ridiculous 40 without
Dude is a
shoes.
monster.
I know.
He's a physical freak. Yeah.
but he would have never come to the school if Paul Johnson was still or was the coach when he was recruited. He never would have come to us. He was there before Paul Johnson, and Paul Johnson just inherited him. And then Paul Johnson just did what Paul Johnson does and ran his triple option offense. It didn't matter what kind of freak athletes he had on the outside.
Dude, ain't no doubt about that. That was probably the first time I ever, got annoyed with a coach, right? Like legitimately watching him call the same play 3 times in a row. And his reasoning was like, well, because we're going to do it right. What? No, dude, come on. But that's that old school mindset that he had for sure.
I will say this. Okay. If you go back to the 90s, the mid 90s, and you have that Nebraska team that didn't run the exact same thing, but they basically ran a version of the triple option. They were able to win a couple of national championships with it, but it was a different time, right? You could run that kind of offense and still get the really good offensive linemen, the really good running backs, and even the really good wide receivers, because that was just an accepted form of offense in the college football landscape at the time. You couldn't do that by the time Paul Johnson got to Georgia Tech.
Now,
But I will say this: when that offense is working,
dude, it was fun. It's fun when it's working. I don't care.
It was a super lethal offense. The problem then comes in when you either run up against a really, really talented team. It was tough to win the matchups you needed to win in those situations. But also, if you were going up against a team like, say, for a bowl game, where they had a month and a half or whatever to game plan and practice against and get better about defending that particular type of defense or offense, then you ran into problems, right? But from a week-to-week basis, like they went up against like FSU when FSU was really good. They went up against some really good teams and won some of those sometimes, or at least like gave them all they could handle with that triple option. So you can win with it, especially now because nobody else runs it. You never practice against it. So when the time comes in, you have to be super disciplined against that kind of offense. It sucks, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, we should have never fired Paul Johnson. We should have kept him. I'm not going to say that because I didn't want to do that anymore. I like the current coach we got. I think we're on the right track with that coach.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of Paul Johnson, but I will say when things were working right with that offense, it was a really hard offense to stop, and it could look really, really nice when it was working like it should.
I'll make two caveats. First one is just checked. I didn't think it was before somebody else corrects us. Calvin Johnson never played for Paul Johnson.
Okay.
Paul Johnson came in 08. Calvin Johnson's last year was 06. So there was anyway. I was like,
I could have swore it was Demaryius Thomas.
It was Demaryius Thomas. It was Bebe who played for Paul Johnson.
That's who it was.
Yeah, it was.
That's who it was. I apologize. I remember it was somebody that was a freak, and I was like,
yeah, it was.
They're just out there,
right? And
100%.
And the second part, the last few years of Paul Johnson's tenure, people can you can laugh or chuckle all you want to, but they started playing teams who had more times to prepare for them. And any team that had extra time, basically the last year of Paul Johnson's tenure, I think almost every game they played, the team was coming off of a bye or coming off of their bye. So they had an extra week to prepare. And I was like, you can't tell me that they didn't do that on purpose. And given extra time to prepare for the triple option, you had a better success of stopping it. And then Georgia would play Georgia Southern every year before playing Georgia Tech, and they ran the same offense. Anyway, that's off my soapbox there. But I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Saivion, you want to tell folks where they can find you?
Right down there on the Twitter machine at @MixonS_NFL. You can find me at thesportingnews.com/US/NFL/Atlanta-Falcons. Don't worry, we put it.
That's a lot. So sporting news.
Just go to sportingnews.com, go to NFL, and then go to teams. We're there.
Right. Yep. And yeah, you got a whole squad over there writing with you.
Got a whole squadron, man. We are, yeah.
So, as always, folks, y'all can find me on the Twitterverse. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan.
At Jonathan M. Holder. Come by, say hi.
Probably won't have a show next week because I'll be doing kids camp with the church, but that should be the last interruption, I believe, as far as the summertime goes. We should be getting back into our schedule and hopefully be getting closer to having more consistent things to talk about. So we appreciate y'all who stopped in and chatted up with us tonight. William Amy, he says, yo. What's good?
Hey, yo.
Hey, work's good. Life's good.
I just need the toothpick.
That's right. Hey, yo. Bad guys. Have a razor robot. Anyway. So we appreciate y'all. Like I said, won't have a show next week, but we'll be back after that. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.
Rise up.